I know as Christians, we ask ourselves a basic question. And when I'm talking about Christians, I'm talking about people who believe in the traditional Christian values. And, and when we talk about traditional Christian values, and we ask ourselves some basic questions, and this is after the Trump election, okay? After that, we ask ourselves some basic questions. Were the values of this country 20 years ago or 10 years ago better than they are today? And just 10 years ago, we passed a whole bunch of legislation in California. In California, we passed a law against same-sex marriage, overturned by the courts. That same law, if put into a vote today, would lose 35-65. The trend against traditional Christian values, and it's not just same-sex marriage. It's not. It's the degradation of the values in movies and TV. It's the attack on Christians. The trend against traditional Christian values is substantial. So that 10 or even 20, let alone 50 years ago, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, think of the values of the traditional Christian values in this country. So so if you're asked the question, are we worse today than we were 10, 20, 50, whatever number you pick, even 2 years ago, you would say, no, we're not. The values have degraded in this country. Christianity is at risk. The rise of atheism and the mass media and one of the major political parties of this country attacking traditional Christian values to the point where many of them talk about putting people in jail for their beliefs. This is serious. Now, we've had an election, and it was, from the traditional Christian value perspective, this was a big deal. We had the enemy of traditional Christian values, a sworn enemy who was in favor of late-term abortions, out-of-body abort. It's not even abortion; it's straight-out murder, and we had a party and a candidate who supported that. And on the other side, we had somebody who said, look, I'm going to appoint a Supreme Court justice that is going to uphold values. It's more complicated than that, but that was there. But do you really think that Donald Trump is going to fight the battles of supporting and defending and arguing about traditional Christian values? We know he's not. He's going to give us a Supreme Court. He's going to give us a cabinet that is more in tune with traditional Christian values than any before it. I believe that. But Donald Trump himself is not, and never professed to be, someone who is entwined in traditional Christian values. He says he's a Christian, but it's a shallow Christianity. We know this. So I'm going to ask the second question to you as traditional Christian believers. Do you think 5 years from now, values are going to be in a better place than they are today, even with Trump as president? Do you think Trump's presidency is going to fight the battles necessary to defend traditional Christian values? On abortion, I think he will do that one thing with the Supreme Court. And we got to give him a lot of credit for that. Because if Hillary had been elected, we were going to have anti-traditional value Supreme Court. And today, we have the chance that that's not going to be the case. I believe Donald Trump has delayed the inevitable. And the inevitable is the continuing degrading of traditional Christian values. It's going to continue. And when we look forward, and God forbid that we have 4 years of Donald Trump, and then a Democrat comes in. I mean, and then we're going to ask the second question, the third question. Do you think, as we speak right now, that your children and your grandchildren are going to live in a world of traditional Christian values, or a world of the secular, atheistic society? This is a battle within the United States. It is a battle that is going to continue, and we have a momentary pause in it, but that pause is going to be only momentary. It is now the time for us as traditional Christians to act, to prepare ourselves for the disaster that might be down the road. It's now the time to act. And one of the biggest things that happens, it's a funny thing about American thought and American, the national discussion. We have the mainstream media that tells us all this, and it's a big deal. But really, when we talk about policy, we talk about things, changes in policy, changes in things that would affect our lives, we really have this discussion only once every 4 years or 2 years, where we're in the public forum, look at all the discussion of issues that came up right in front of everyone during the presidential election. At no time in our country is there this point where we have this national discussion of these big issues. At no time. And what has happened is that people like Donald Trump, but even people like Bush, people like Romney, these are people who profess to believe in traditional Christian values, profess to be pro-life, profess to be against same-sex marriage, etc., etc. They promise, they say they are, but they will not discuss them. They will not bring them up as part of a campaign. They do not say when they're running a political campaign, I'm a traditional Christian and I believe in these things, and I want to tell you why I believe in these things. We don't have anything like that. What we have is someone who says, well, I'm a traditional Christian, but I don't want to talk about it. We can't have that. We need the change that needs to occur is a change in our political discussion. We need people representing us who will talk about these issues, that will run for Congress saying that the most important thing are traditional values. The most important thing about my campaign is that I am pro-life. And here's why. Now, why is this important? Because this is where the discussion, the national discussion occurs, is in these political races. And we'll have a Republican and Democrat. Democrat is anti-traditional Christian values, and we'll have a candidate who says, I'm a traditional conservative, a traditional Christian, and when they face off against each other, the so-called traditional Christian does not talk about the issues. He is told, don't bring up abortion. Don't bring it up. And we are obsessed with the idea that we have to win. Winning is not the important thing. What is important is that we are discussing these issues in the public forum so people can understand what we're talking about and fighting for. We need a different kind of candidate. Okay? And the only way we can get a different kind of candidate if people who believe in traditional Christian values act. If they act, then maybe we can get some politicians who are going to talk about the values. Now again, it's not about winning. Okay, we want to win. That's the point of doing it. But running a particular campaign is more about the ideas than it is about winning. So I want a candidate who will talk about the issues, talk about abortion, talk about same-sex marriage, and put it in the public square. And if he loses, so what? At least we had exposure to the public of our ideas. Now, what does the public see? Well, he says he's pro-life, but he doesn't want to talk about it. He must be embarrassed about it. He must not really, we don't have to worry about him. That's what's going on. It's a terrible, terrible thing. We as Christians must act, and we must act politically. So what we're talking about in the traditional voice is we want you to act, okay? And acting today, under no circumstances am I talking about action that you're going to go out and march in a parade, march in a protest. You don't need to block an abortion clinic. You don't have to walk the precinct. You don't have to put a sign if you don't want on your in your lawn. Action today is all from your home. Everything is just sitting at home acting. And what are these things that you need to do? You need, number one, to vote for the right person. Okay. You need to vote for people who will defend traditional Christian values in their political campaign, who are not embarrassed about it, who are bringing these issues to the forefront again, to bringing traditional Christianity to the forefront, not as an embarrassment. So we need to vote for the right people. We need to boycott. We need to, and again, this is all from your living room, your family room. This all can be done because so much today is online. We are advocating here that we boycott Amazon. Okay. Why? Because Jeff Bezos has made billions of dollars from Amazon and has been one of the most virulent opponents of traditional Christian values in the country. He has spent millions and millions of dollars attacking the opponents to same-sex marriage. He spent millions of dollars in Washington to defeat the proposition there, and also, and that alone would be enough. But also, he bought the Washington Post, which is a rag for an attack on traditional Christian values. It is a Democrat pro-abortion rag. And he bought it and he made it even more liberal. Now, when you go to Amazon, you're giving this guy money. Now, it isn't like I know it's hard for a lot of people. Amazon is in all of our lives, even my own. And it's not going to be easy, but there are other places to buy stuff online. And so you're sitting at home as a Christian and you're saying, Amazon's, I believe everything you say. I believe the country's going to hell, and we're not, my grandkids are going to live worse, have a worse set of values than we have today, but I can't give up Amazon. That's what this is about. Yeah, I'm for traditional Christian values, but I can't give up Amazon. And I'm going to ask you to do more than that, but you must boycott. And by the way, we can have an effect on Amazon. We can go into that later. Okay. The third thing you have to do is contribute. So when we find a candidate, when the traditional voice points out a candidate that we endorse, and we endorse him, and you need to contribute to that candidate. You need to contribute to the right causes here. And we're going to point those out to you. Okay. So from your armchair at home, you vote for the right candidates. Well, you have to go to the polling place to vote, but you get the information right from sitting down at your desk. Boycott, going to cause a little problem. I understand. But you have to boycott. And we're going to list the things we're going to boycott. They're going to be substantial. And you must contribute. All from your home. All from your home. And if Christians did that, we would change the world. If Christians did this, things could be different. We're fighting a battle between good and evil. Okay? And that's what this battle is, good and evil. And we're fighting this battle, and we're losing. We've been losing for years, 50, 60, 70 years. I don't know. You can pick a date. We're losing. And all of us can see the trend. Donald Trump postpones that trend ever so slightly. He's not going to defend traditional Christian values. He's not. He's not going to talk about these issues. We have heard the last, and I praised Trump in the debate for bringing it up. You know, he brought it up more than Bush ever did, either Bush. Okay, so he at least talked about it, but that's the last we're going to hear about it, probably. And so this trend is going to continue. And if we're not alert, our grandchildren are going to be living in a country that is atheistic and will persecute Christian beliefs. That's where the trend is. This is a momentary pause in this battle. The battle for good and evil. And from your armchair at home, you could change the world.